All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking the massive federal investigation into one of the most tragic, just absolutely heart-wrenching events in American history. We're looking directly at the raw source files, declassified memos, internal documents, the whole shebang, to understand exactly how the FBI hunted down the perpetrators of the 1963 16th Street Baptist Church bombing. It's a story of terror, an unprecedented federal response, decades of frustration, and ultimately a relentless pursuit of the truth. Let's set the stage with our first section, A Quiet Sunday Shattered. Picture this, September 15th, 1963, 10:24 a.m. Up until that exact quiet moment, it was just a typical Sunday morning in Birmingham, Alabama. But at 10:24, a devastating dynamite bomb exploded in the back stairwell of the downtown 16th Street Baptist Church. The blast was so incredibly violent, it literally ripped right through the solid church wall. And the tragic toll of that blast? 4. The explosion killed 4 young African-American girls who happened to be on the other side of that wall, and it injured more than 20 others inside the church. Our source materials make it crystal clear. There's no question this was an outright act of racial hatred. The church wasn't chosen at random, It was a key civil rights meeting place, and it had actually already been a frequent target of bomb threats.
So what happened next? That brings us to the BAPBOMB investigation begins.
The response to this horrific tragedy was swift and, frankly, completely unprecedented in its scale. The local Birmingham FBI office didn't wait around. They wired the director immediately. And get this, they didn't even wait for commercial flights. FBI bomb experts were raced to the scene via military jets. An additional dozen personnel from other offices were instantly dispatched to help out. The operation was officially codenamed the BAPBOMB investigation. By 10 p.m. that very same night, the tone was set at the absolute highest levels of government. Assistant Director Al Rosen assured Assistant Attorney General Katzenbach that the Bureau considered this a most heinous offense and that they had entered the investigation with no holds barred. They were promising the full heavy weight of the federal government, and the source files show they absolutely meant it. That no-holds-barred directive was immediately felt on the ground. Through the fall of '63 and into the new year, the FBI practically turned Birmingham upside down. They peaked at 36 agents working the case simultaneously, which is just a massive deployment for a single regional office. They interviewed thousands of people. They applied so much pressure that they severely disrupted local Ku Klux Klan activities, causing the groups to bleed members and support. They threw every single tool they had at this: extensive polygraphs, physical surveillance, hidden microphones, and advanced technical wiretaps. But of course, it wasn't easy. Let's look at the investigative roadblocks and suspects. Let's look at where they stood 2 years later. By 1965, the FBI had successfully zeroed in on 4 primary suspects: Robert E. Chambliss, Bobby Frank Cherry, Herman Frank Cash, and Thomas E. Blanton Jr. All 4 were known Ku Klux Klan members. The investigators knew exactly who did it. But, knowing who did it and actually proving it in a 1960s court of law were 2 totally different things. Federal charges remained entirely out of reach. So why did the case stall? Well, the FBI hit a massive dual brick wall. On one side, physical evidence from the blast was severely lacking, and local witnesses were understandably terrified to speak out due to intense local fear and prejudice. The community was traumatized, and the threat of violent retaliation was very, very real. On the other side, the FBI's absolute best evidence, the information gathered from those extensive microphone and technical surveillances, was simply not admissible in court back then. They knew exactly what was being said behind closed doors, but they couldn't show it to a jury. This stall has led to a ton of historical speculation. Let's dig into Hoover and the evidence. It's a question that comes up all the time. Did FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover hold back evidence from prosecutors? Did he actively try to stifle justice in the 1960s? It's a huge claim for sure, but when we actually look at the original source documents from the BAPBOMB file, a very different story emerges. Take a look at this handwritten response on an internal memo. Hoover is actually pushing back against a Justice Department prosecutor who was seeking information, asking, haven't these reports already been furnished to the DEPT? The records indicate his primary concern was preventing leaks of sensitive investigative methods, not stifling justice. The simple fact is, he just didn't believe the legal, admissible evidence was strong enough yet to secure a conviction. And taking a weak case to trial? Well, that could mean losing the chance to ever hold these guys accountable. And this dynamic only becomes clearer as time goes on. Far from hiding evidence, the files show that in 1966, Hoover actively overruled his own staff to ensure that the Justice Department had full access to the wiretap transcripts. The bottleneck wasn't some grand cover-up. It was the stringent legal standards of the era violently colliding with a terrified community.
But the story doesn't end there. Moving on to our final section, justice finally served.
The path to justice required incredible, stubborn perseverance. 14 years after the bombing, in 1977, as that intense societal fear finally began to subside, Alabama Attorney General Robert Baxley secured a conviction and a life sentence for Robert Chambliss. Then, fast forward to the mid-90s. The FBI officially reopened the BAPBOMB case, and by May 2000, nearly 4 decades after the blast, Thomas Blanton and Bobby Frank Cherry were finally indicted, convicted, and handed life sentences. The fourth suspect, Herman Frank Cash, actually escaped earthly justice. He died in 1994. To really understand the sheer scale of this decades-long pursuit, think about this number for a second. 3,400. That's the number of pages in the official BABOM investigation file that are now declassified and available online for you and me to read. Every interview, every surveillance log, every frustrating moment of this exhaustive pursuit is documented right there. It's just a monumental record of both a horrific crime and an unyielding investigation. Which leaves us with this final thought. We've seen the monumental effort it took. Military jets, wiretaps, decades of waiting for witnesses to finally feel safe enough to speak. Just to close this one file. Knowing it took nearly 4 decades to secure justice for those 4 little girls, how can we ensure our modern society maintains the unyielding vigilance required to confront and prosecute acts of racial hatred today? It is a heavy question for sure, but one this file demands we ask. Thanks for walking through this explainer with me. Take some time to process what we've unpacked today. Keep asking those tough questions, and I'll catch you next time.